Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about solving three-step equations. It's very similar to solving two-step equations. There just might be it's just one extra step, which usually it's a step before you start moving stuff to get the variable by itself. So you have to do some kind of simplifying or something like that. Generally, is how it is, but not all the time. But we'll see a couple of those in this as well, and a couple that are not. So the first one we're going to look at is number one. It's got this parentheses here: -2 times the quantity of 3x minus 7 equals 12. What we need to do is we got to get rid of these parentheses first. So you got to think back, well, how do I get rid of the parentheses if there's a -2 out in front? Well, you need to use distributive properties. So I'm going to take the -2. I'm going to multiply it through to everything on the inside of the parentheses and only the parentheses stuff only the stuff in the parentheses, and that's it. Nothing else. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do -2 times 3x, which is a -6x. I'm going to do a -2 times a -7, which is a positive 14. Okay, and then now that 12 stays exactly the same, so I'm going to leave that 12 there. I didn't do nothing to the 12 yet. Now, once we have everything as much simplified on the left-hand side as possible, now we're going to get the x by itself. So what I'm going to do is I like to draw the line down again. So I'm going to get the x by itself, so I got to get rid of the plus 14 first, which we've got to use our inverse operations. So remember to get rid of the addition, subtraction stuff first to get a variable by itself. So we get rid of plus 14, minus 14, minus 14 on both sides. So that leaves me left on the right-hand side, I got a -2. And on my left-hand side, I got a -6x. Now I got to get the x all by itself here. So we got to how do we get rid of a -6 when it's attached to an x? Well, you got to do the opposite. And it's not the opposite of subtraction. We actually need to do the opposite of multiplication because it's -6 times x. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to go -6 to both sides. And then on the left-hand side, our -6's cancel out. So I'm left with just my x equals a negative divided by a negative is positive, so I don't have any more negative signs. And then 2/6 actually reduces down to 1/3, or if you want to put a decimal, I guess, is 0.3 repeating. Okay, 0.3 repeating. Now, we don't tend to write the decimal here. We just leave it as a fraction, just reduce all the way down. All right, so problem number 2. This one here, though, we got a fraction right away. Well, fraction right away can be ugly, so I'm going to show you how to get rid of the fraction here while solving this problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and get x by itself right away. Okay, so I'm going to leave that 1/5 x there. Not even going to touch the fraction right now. I'm just going to get rid of this -2 on the left-hand side, and then I'll worry about the 1/5 x. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of a -2. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Add 2 to both sides. So I get 1/5 x equals -6. Okay, -8 plus 2 is -6. Now, to get rid of the fraction, what we need to do here is multiply by the reciprocal, which multiplying by the reciprocal means taking the fraction, or I should say, not even multiplying by the reciprocal, we just need to divide by the fraction, which means multiply by the reciprocal. So when we mean multiply by the reciprocal, we're going to take the fraction and we're going to multiply by it flipped. So instead of 1/5, we're going to multiply it by 5/1. Okay, so when I do that to the other, so I'm going to do that to the other side, times it by 5/1. Now, when doing this, okay, the 5/1 times 1/5, what is happening there? 5 times 1 on the top is 5. 1 times 5 on the bottom is 5, which 5 divided by 5 is 1. So they cancel each other out. So therefore, my fraction is now gone on the left-hand side, and then I have x left on the left-hand side. Now, when you have a 1 in the denominator, I'm going to go ahead and put a 1 underneath the -6. Okay, just multiply by the numerators. Multiply by my numerators, so I have -6 times 5, which is a -30. Okay, and then 1 times 1 is 1, which anything divided by 1 is just itself. So my answer then is -30 in this case. Okay, so x equals -30. Now you can always put it back in the equation to check, okay, to help get rid of that, to help make sure you got your answer correct. Okay, one more here, number 3 here. Okay, this one's got a fraction the whole beginning. This is one of those 3 steps that can be ugly. Well, in order to do this first, you got to get rid of your fraction. Well, in this case, we're not going to multiply by the reciprocal because that'll end up taking this 2x minus 6 somewhere. What we want to do is we just want to get rid of the dividing by 3. So what's the opposite of dividing by 3? Well, to get rid of that, take it times 3. So I'm going to take this whole side times 3. And I'm going to do it to the other side as well, times 3. Now, when we take that left side times 3, since everything was being divided by 3, the 3's then cancel each other out, which leaves us with just 2x minus 6. So we don't have no more fractions now because those 3's canceled each other out when we multiplied by that. That's what we wanted. And then we have negative 12 times 3, which will get us a negative 36. Now we're going to finish just like we did in that two-step. Get rid of the minus 6 first, so add 6 to both sides, add 6 to both sides. So we get 2x equals negative 30. Then to get rid of the 2, you got to divide by 2 on both sides, divide by 2. So we get x equals negative 15. Okay? So there's just a few problems you might run into for three-step equations. If you have any questions, please let me know.